J-E-T-S,
Good job today, man. One at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
and the home of the Jets.
Good evening, everybody. Tuesday night, February 3rd, and the New York Jets do not have an offensive coordinator, but don't worry, have no fear. Aaron Glenn is here to save us all. Mr. JetsCentral, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I was watching your guys' stream last night, right? Bubs was in there, a ton of great callers, lots of great points. And I asked a question towards the end of the stream. I'm like, hey, man, are the Jets going to hire an OC before the draft? And I didn't really get a straight answer. So I don't really know where we stand with it. Obviously, Bevel, Roman, they wrapped up their interviews. Supposedly Reich has been the front runner this whole time. Where do you kind of stand on it, man? Like, it feels like it could go in a bunch of different directions. I have been a fan of this team for a long time, right? Not as long as you, but I can't really remember a search like this where, I mean, first week of February here, firing Tanner Instrand so late into the process. And look, even if we land, one of these guys, I don't really think it's the complete end of the world, but just the process so far just feels, optically speaking, like all over the place.
I think that's the thing. We're probably, if you would have hired Frank Reich 3 weeks ago, like, all right, they made a decisive move. They fired Tanner Engstrand. They got Reich. They got his staff in place. We roll. The problem is this process has been so clumsy. They come off incompetent. They come off unprepared. The Senior Bowl is come and gone. No offense in place. It seems like everything's just half-assed right now. That's what bothers you the most. Like, if they could hire all three of these guys and put them all on the same staff. That's an upgrade from last year. You feel comfortable with it, but you just don't have comfortable in their process, their plan, their preparation. It just seems weird, dude. And even the whole Frank Reich thing, like, this was reportedly done a couple days ago. Why isn't it done now? Like, what? Like, you wonder about, is it, the whole Martindale thing again? Like, what's going on? Like, the Jets get no benefit of the doubt right now, nor should they get it.
Yeah, and like another thing, and not to just come on here and immediately just be like a negative Nancy, but of course, right, offensive coordinator is freaking massive, and Glenn is going to be having supposedly he's going to have a bigger say in the defense and whatnot, but these staffs are being built, and we still have to replace D-line coach and linebacker coach, because the thought initially was, I think it was Connor Hughes that was, at the forefront of the whole Wink Martindale thing. But you got to imagine whether it was Wink, whether it was Jim Leonard, DeMarcus Covington, like any Durante Jones, any sort of like external candidate, they were going to be brought in, and you would have assumed that, okay, it's going to be Wink's guys that he's bringing in, Jim Leonard's guys that he's bringing in, just like we're seeing with Buffalo right now. You're seeing a bunch of guys that have ties to Jim Leonard that are being filled out on that defensive side. Well, now that they bring in Brian Duker, like, okay, cool, that's one thing. But what is going on with the rest of the staff? If Glenn is kind of this, head coach / de facto DC play caller, well, it's now up to him to not only just find the offensive coordinator, but now he has to find the rest of the defensive staff. And, again, if we're, it's February 3rd, we're still searching for an OC. So
on defense, he hired his guys last year, didn't he? Didn't he hire
some of those guys were Wilkes guys, to be fair.
I mean, he said, oh, it's all about chemistry and compatibility and my guys. And it's like, the problem I have with defense, I mean, we talked about this so many times already, but it's like, Glenn should have known when he fired Wilkes, you know what? I'm going to call plays next year. I'm going to do this. You make a decision, then you move on. The first day, the day the season ends, you move on. Okay, here's our plan. I'm thinking our play calling. I'm hiring my guys. Our process starts today. Our staff is filled out. You don't dilly-dally around, wait 3 more weeks. We're going to interview Martindale. It came off genuinely that they have no plan, dude. They're flying by the seat of their pants, like, oh, whatever. Like, they're just swimming out there trying to find answers. And it's like, what did you do this entire season in terms of preparation? Like, what did Moody do? What did Spielman do? What did they do to prepare for 2026? It looks like nothing. And now they're paying for it. And now they're trying to catch up with it, which is not easy. And I said it last night, and this is exactly how I feel. Based on the way they handled this entire offseason, I would be like, you know what? I don't care what we're doing anymore. Everybody's fired. McDermott takes over. They win 3 games this year. I genuinely don't care because that's our legitimate answer. You need adults in the room. You need guys that have been there, done that, know how to run an organization, run a team, run an offense, run a defense. You need all that. And the one thing I worry about now is with the offensive coordinator, all you're hiring is a babysitter for Aaron Glenn because you're going to run the offense. You want an experienced guy like Frank Reich to kind of oversee what Glenn's doing and give him insight. What they hope Wilkes did last year. It's like, dude, you're trying to do all these things to make up for just a bad head coach. That's what he is.
Yeah, but
You're having a guy that was 3-14, and you're letting him fire his entire staff minus Banjo and start over again based on what he didn't earn it. So now you're trying to find band-aids to make this season mediocre to justify keeping him for one more year. You're just trying to save jobs right now, trying to save face. All you're trying to do, let's try to win 7 games and keep our job. Not about winning Super Bowls or winning anything else. It's cover your ass mode.
Well, I mean, the reality is the Jets are in a position right now where Aaron Glenn and whoever the OC is going to be, Duker, Banjo, the back is against the wall. They're on the ropes, right? And what are they going to do? Are they going to continue to just get hit and hit and hit over and over and over again, lay down, or are they going to start punching back, right? And one of two things are going to happen. One, they turn it around. Whoever the OC is gets the offense rolling. We find a quarterback. Awesome. We start winning games. We're growing, progressing, developing. Sweet. How can I be mad at that as a Jet fan, But the alternative is they don't progress. They don't grow. We see more of the same issues offensively, more of the same issues defensively, more weird, strange pressers from Glenn where he says one thing and then comes out the next day and says something else. And everyone's gone. And that's it. And we're starting over. And McDermott was brought up before. Man, how good of a fit would McDermott be for this New York Jets team, man? Like stepping into Buffalo, and granted, like Buffalo was built up a little bit when McDermott took over. He didn't really step into a dysfunctional 3-win team. Rex had at least really Doug Marrone kind of stabilized it. Rex came in and didn't really upgrade, just kind of kept it a little bit of the same for 2 years. Ironically enough, Greg Roman was a part of that staff. He's been linked to the Jets here, obviously, but McDermott comes in and then takes him to a whole new level. But I mean, you got guys out there like Mike Tomlin, like McDermott and Tomlin are the two that it's just like, hey, blank check. I'm not talking 10 mil. I'm not talking 12 mil. I'm talking what Harbaugh's getting paid, 20 million per season. Run the team, please. Your say. You're in charge. You're the guy. That could just on paper, that could, be the pathway out if Glenn and co doesn't turn it around.
No, that's like the Giants are exactly what the Jets were, but they found their answer in John Harbaugh. The Jets are in the same exact boat right now. So now they're going to try to band-aid together this friggin' staff, and we could talk about it. I mean, the defensive thing is a joke with this Duker. Don't care. He's a water boy. This defense is all about Glenn. I'm not sure they're not hiring anybody. It's supposed to be all his guys. You should have a plan in place for that. But now you're on offense where every fan said the same thing. We want to add a veteran offensive mind to the staff to help Engstrand. Should have did this last year, didn't do it. Now it's this year. So instead of doing that, they fired Engstrand. Fine. Now you have your veteran guy calling your play calls, and now you're also preparing to develop your quarterback. Of the 3 guys, we can go off for all 3 of them. They all have a litany of experience, man. They've been there, done that in the NFL. They've known it. They've got friggin', head coach experience, all kinds of stuff here. So it's like you feel comfortable with that. Are they up to date? Are they innovative? Are they creative? Are they inspiring? Will they lure free agents here with their offense? That remains to be seen. But what do you think about Frank Reich, who veteran guy, leadership, genuine guy, very well respected all throughout the NFL, but hasn't been in the NFL for 2 years, was at Stanford for 2 years. There's rumors that he was thinking about retiring, which is never good. But he, in terms of quarterback development, you'd feel okay with that. What are your thoughts on Frank Reich and also the mentor to Glenn too, where you can say, listen, man, in terms of game management, time management, handling this he could be the true mentor that Steve Wilkes wasn't.
For sure, man. I mean, I love Reich. I think out of the 5 OC candidates that the Jets initially interviewed, and obviously out of the 3 finalists here, assuming Reich is still in the mix, he would be my number one option because of the head coaching experience, the offensive coordinator experience, the play calling experience, him having a Super Bowl, him being a former player, him knowing Aaron Glenn personally, him being a former Jet, right? So I think to me, he checks the most boxes as far because look, it it kind of sucks to say it, but I'm not hoping like, oh man, we got to be a top 5 offense next year. I'm just hoping for a stabilized, normal program first. And I think if Frank Reich could come in, who reported? I think it was Connor Hughes that reported that Glenn wants a head coach of the offense. Reich to me is the head coach of the offense. Like if he has a suggestion on, oh, I want a wide receiver, or I don't want to settle for left guard, like let's go out and spend some big money and sign like a dominant left guard in free agency, he better have power to go out and do that because he's experienced. He's been around the block. He's won a bunch of games. He's called plays. I don't care that he did not call plays with the Eagles in the Super Bowl run. Like, I'm not just saying, oh, he didn't call plays. He doesn't do anything. Just shows up to the facility and just, plays games on the computer. No, he's a vital part of that staff and got the head coaching gig with the Indianapolis Colts. And he called plays for 4 years there, where he was top 5 his first season with Andrew Luck in 2018 in points per game. Then Luck suddenly retires in preseason. Like, you're thinking scramble mode. Like, imagine if Josh Allen just retires in preseason or has a season-ending injury and they have to go to Trubisky. What do you think that offense would look like? You're going from a franchise guy, top 5 quarterback to scramble backup mode. Long story short, Brissett steps in, and they were 16th in points per game. I know that number doesn't really sound like, oh, that's not like top 2, top 3, but 16th in points per game where you're week 3, you have to go to your backup for the entire remainder of the season. It's a pretty big change of direction from a coaching staff perspective, and they were still managing to score a decent amount of points, right? Literally above average. And then the 2 following seasons, top 10 both years, 9th both years, with 2 separate quarterbacks and Carson Wentz. Phillip Rivers, then Carson Wentz. And then ultimately he gets fired with, who was it, Matt Ryan. You had the drama with Brady, the offensive coordinator at the time, and he gave up play calling that year. The Carolina thing, he had 11 games, and there were so many strange reports coming out about the ownership and him.
He wanted Stroud.
Yeah, Josh McCown was a part of that staff, and just totally strange, totally weird. Like, I remember reading a report basically saying that I think it was actually from The Athletic that reported that the Panthers fired Reich because they weren't impressed with Bryce Young's development, and they thought he would be a lot farther along his rookie year. Like, literally in the middle of the year, they thought he would be like a above average starting quarterback, and Reich was fired. Bryce didn't improve. Canales comes in. There's still question marks there. Bryce gets benched. It wasn't really until this season where Young really started to take those steps. So I don't want to look at that and say, oh, Frank Reich can't coach.
But do you have concerns that he's been out of the NFL for 2 years and kind of like, consult and then taking over Stanford? Does that bother you at all or no?
If I was, maybe a Bills fan and he's stepping in to be ROC, or he's,
that's true.
He's taking over as Eagles offensive coordinator where it's Super Bowl or bust. Yeah, I'm a little concerned, but I think this team needs a lot more than just an offensive play caller. I think they need structure. I think they need leadership. I think they just need a good dude. My buddy actually met Reich a couple years ago when he was living in North Carolina. And he said that he was just couldn't have been a nicer guy, totally down to earth, a really just like a genuinely good guy that wants to see people thrive.
He's a tremendous leader, very well respected. Boomer Esiason talks about him, raves about him on WFN. They've been roommates. The question is this: what is his offense he's bringing here, and does Justin Fields have anything to do with this? Like, and we'll stay on Frank Reich for now, but like you say, okay, you hire Greg Roman. Okay, I could see why you're doing that. You want to run the ball. Justin Fields is a great athlete. Maybe run the ball. Maybe run it back. Let him try to maximize him. With Frank Reich, he wants a pocket passer, dude. He wants a prototypical pocket passer. That's what his offense usually is. Is that something that you're also excited about, especially going into the draft with a Ty Simpson available like that? Is that how you like? It's great to have the name and the experience, but you also got to keep in mind, what is your offense who you're making your offense for. Can you maximize Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and all the guys? And can it help you develop a quarterback too? Like that, his offense seems structured to have a legit, smart pocket passer.
Dude, to be honest with you, I think Fields is out either way. I don't see Fields coming back at all. You mentioned Roman before. I think if we get Roman, Kyler's the guy because of what Roman has done with mobile quarterbacks, with Tyrod and Lamar Jackson winning an MVP. Even Colin Kaepernick was just great under Greg Roman.
So then just to say, so does hiring Frank kind of give insight into what kind of quarterback the Jets would want to draft?
I would say so. I mean,
right?
but then again, I don't know how much power the OC is going to have because
but you got to. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But the thing is, if you hire this offensive coordinator right now, in theory, the Jets have no quarterback on the roster. Tyrod's a free agent. Brady Cook's a practice squad guy. In my world, Justin Fields doesn't exist. Okay, you have to go into free agency with a plan. And Frank Reich had to have a plan when he interviewed for this job. Like, listen, I want to be your offensive coordinator, but I also want Kirk Cousins or Malik Willis or whoever it is. So this decision is really important, dude, because you're developing your bridge and your draft pick with this guy. So does having Frank Reich kind of say, okay, listen, Kyler Murray is not really a fit. He's not a fit for his offense. That's just a fact. Does that change your mind on anything or no?
It does. Yeah. What I was going to say before was if Roman's the guy, I think it's going to be Kyler. I don't see, us hiring Roman and then trading for Mac Jones. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Like Roman is dual threat QB, at least someone who can move. I'm not saying that they have to be like an elite athlete like Kyler or Lamar, but it's not going to be some stationary, like Cousins, I think will be off the table if Roman's the guy. But with Reich, it's kind of funny. I think it would be flipped. I think Cousins, and by the way, I believe it was reported, I think it could have been a couple years ago that Frank Reich and Kirk Cousins actually have like a good bond off the field. Yep. And then, you throw in the whole Rick Spielman aspect as well. And then also from Cousins' standpoint, he recently had the whole reworked contract thing, and the Jets actually have a good pass protecting offensive line, which is sweet. And obviously, wide receiver one with a lot of flexibility this offseason and a guaranteed starting gig. Not many teams can say that. Maybe Minnesota, that's kind of the team I still feel like it makes the most sense for Kirk. But, Cousins aside, you could trade for a Jacoby Brissett, who Frank Reich has worked with, and Brissett's coming off like a statistically good season, like good touchdown to INT ratio, and really threw the ball around the field a lot. Albeit he, I believe, was 1-11 in the win-loss category. But Brissett's an interesting option. Again, another great teammate, another good leader. You could, of course, trade for Mac Jones. Malik Willis, I think, could maybe make some sense for Reich, although I think I would maybe prefer an older veteran over Malik if I'm just being real. But I think if you take Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier or one of these rookies, I don't really know what's going on with Trinidad Chambliss. That's still up in the air, to this point. But if it's a Ty Simpson specifically, because I feel like he just makes a lot of sense for the Jets, or Nuss, right? Two pocket passers, two guys that are really good at, pre-snap to post-snap. It's I think it would be a great fit. And then also something interesting to make a note of with Reich, when he was a player who's a backup quarterback, like he understands the value of just the value of sitting on the bench, right? Understanding, okay, maybe throwing this young guy with not much experience out to the flames is not that good of not a good idea, right? And that's kind of what the Jets are known for, So if you can go out and snag a Cousins and say, hey, 1 year, kind of bridge the gap here, mentor, say Simpson or Nuss, and Frank Reich is running the show, I feel a lot better about that situation than just taking one and just saying, Tanner, you develop him.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. It's really interesting to see. Like, I'm curious to see once they have their plan. Like, you got to figure Frank Reich had to have a plan. He had to sell the Jets on something. Here's my offense. Here's my staff. Here's my vision for the quarterback that will be available. And they do their research, which is fine. So, and that looks like that's where the Jets are heading as of the last rumors. He's there today. Who knows what's going to happen tonight? Everybody expects some kind of announcement tomorrow. So then the next guy is Darrell Bevell, who, again, a lot of experience, Last 2 years in Miami, so you figure learn from Mike McDaniel, maybe the new schemes, the offense, all this high-flying stuff, which is good. Younger than Frank Reich. What do you think about Bevel, man? Like, if I had to rank him, if I'm being completely transparent, I go Reich, Bevel, Roman, my 1, 2, 3. What do you think about Bevel?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, Bevel has what, 13, 14 years as offensive coordinator. Favre with Minnesota. He had all those seasons winning a Super Bowl, right, with Seattle back when Russ was in his peak. A couple seasons with Detroit, couple seasons with Jacksonville. The one thing I'll say about Bevel, I mean, even Roman too, really all three, they're all, I think they all have the potential, Reich especially, but all three, I think, have the potential to just stabilize the offense, right? Can we get from out of the freaking basement of the NFL and just get to like, hey, can we shoot from like 32, 31, 30, 29 to 19?
Yes.
I think
Just
that
average. Yeah.
Just kind of be average, right?
Yep.
I think all three of those guys have the capabilities, knowledge, and experience level to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be overwhelmed by a 2-minute drill. We saw Tanner get overwhelmed by a 2-minute drill,
Yep.
End of game situation. Think about, that Steelers game, that first week of the season. And of course, right, Glenn has a lot to we have to put a lot of blame on Glenn because ultimately he's the head coach and he's a CEO style of head coach.
Yeah.
So theoretically he should actually be helping out and assisting in that area. But I like Tanner. I didn't think he deserved to be demoted or fired or whatever. But if you're moving on from Tanner Inkstrand and that's the reality, okay, well, now you have to go upgrade. And if the Jets aren't a desirable job and we don't have a quarterback and Glenn could be on the hot seat, let's see. It's so the New York Jets just posted that they've completed an in-person interview with Frank Reich.
No kidding. We all know that already.
So yeah, we'll see how it
kidding.
We'll see how it plays out. But and also, when they posted that thing last night about Bevel and Roman, I saw a lot. Like, I actually got a couple texts from my buddies. They're like, "What the heck is this, man? Like, where's Reich? Like, he was supposedly the front runner." I guess Boomer Esiason said that he was on vacation, so that's why he wasn't like, involved in that singular post. But yeah, it should be awesome, or it should be interesting to see kind of how, what decision the Jets end up making. But I'll tell you what, man, we got to make a decision soon. Joe Lombardi just got scooped up, by the way, to Baltimore, so he's off the table. Matt Nagy's gone.
Well, this is why you don't wait 3 weeks to fire your offensive coordinator. You act like a big boy organization and do it once the season's over. Like I said, this whole process has been clumsy. But if you end with the result, you get a veteran coordinator, great. But it comes down to, like with Darrell Bevel, what kind of quarterback matches his system? Like, would you feel comfortable saying, okay, listen, we're going to tie our future quarterback to you and your offense? That's kind of how I'm looking at least, because in theory, maybe they're going to be here 2 years. I don't know. But this is their first, you're a young quarterback. This is their first impression in the NFL. Do you feel comfortable giving Ty Simpson Darrell Bevel?
I feel more comfortable again, I like Tanner. I do. But I do feel more comfortable giving a young quarterback to an experienced offensive mind. It would be different if we had an offensive-minded head coach. We don't. So we need, and also, too, for what it's worth, we don't have a quarterback coach, too. And Charles London wasn't all that great this past season. Nope. So it's like, man, like we really need someone that's been around the block, someone that understands offense, someone that has a specific scheme, someone who's, again, called plays and isn't going to be overwhelmed and is going to have answers for questions, not only just regarding the quarterback position, but for every position on offense. So I feel better with Bevel, Reich. I don't really know about Roman. If you're a dual threat, I feel good about Roman, but not if you're not if you're Nussmeier or Ty Simpson. I don't feel great about Roman.
We talked about Frank. Like, how would you compare Bevel to Frank Reich? Would you be like, all right, like say right now we say we have comfort with Frank Reich developing our young quarterback. We kind of know what his offense is going to be. You figure Bevel, we kind of know what his offense is going to be as well. Would you feel comfortable with that? Saying, okay, listen, we're going to tie our with you, man. You're our guy. You're like, would you feel cool with that, or you say, you know what, I still wish it was a little bit different?
It's right there at the end, you kind of cut out. What exactly?
Like, are you feel comfortable saying, all right, Darrell Bevel is you're going to be our key to success on offense. You're going to develop our quarterbacks. we're going to ride and die with your offense this year. Is that something you're comfortable with? Or you're like, you know what? It's not the best case scenario. I prefer he's more of like a pass game coordinator than a offensive coordinator.
At this stage, I wouldn't necessarily mind it. I think we can probably list off a ton of worse options. How much of an upgrade over Tanner really is Bevel. But I will say this, man, Mike McDaniel's not an idiot. When you listen to people talk about Mike McDaniel, he's creative, he's a genius, this and that. He's not going to bring Darrell Bevel onto the staff and keep him on the staff and say, hey, you're in charge of Tua and this offense. I'm an offensive-minded head coach. I don't see him going down that path if he thinks that Bevel was an idiot or he couldn't handle it or he didn't bring anything to the table. So I do think that plus all the years of experience back with, again, Minnesota, Seattle, and whatnot. And also, too, for what it's worth, Bevel, you think back to the whole Urban Meyer disaster. Bevel took over for Meyer and became the interim head coach. And Trevor Lawrence, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, I think Lawrence broke the all-time pass yardage record under Darrell Bevel calling plays as a rookie, which I think it was over 36 or 3,700 passing yards or something like that. So yeah, I think Bevel is, again, if you like, I'm trying to picture, okay, the Jets are lining up 1:00 on Sundays and it's a minute 36 before halftime and we're down by 3 and we're getting possession of the 30. Is Bevel going to be nervous? Is he going to have butterflies? Is he going to be like, frantically searching his play sheet saying like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do here? No, these guys have been in positions like this over and over and over and over. In the case of Greg Roman, though, he's called a lot of plays for a lot of important offenses. Like, he is the trusted John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh. He's Rex Ryan when he was in Buffalo, and he's calling these plays. Like, he's in charge of these offenses, and he's called a lot of different playoff games and whatnot. And again, Lamar won an MVP. I don't want to say that the Jets can't go wrong, because that's a bit of a stretch, right? That's a bit of a stretch. But I will say, when the Jets initially dropped their interview candidate list, I was like, you know what? I was honestly thinking it was going to be a little worse than this. So
yeah, then I saw Greg Roman. I thought Kyler Murray and Justin Fields, and then I thought of both of them right off the bat, like running athletes, good at, and like, to me, it's like the Justin Fields, like, oh, we can justify keeping him. He'll fit in the offense. We don't have to cut him, take a cap hit, whatever else. Like, that's kind of where I thought of it. In terms of, like, it's tough. Like, it's, there's like, I see everybody saying in the chat, everybody kind of wants Frank Reich to hire Bevel and Roman to be on the staff and have like an all-star veteran staff. And the thing is, if you interview for the coordinator job and you don't get it, you're like, oh yeah, I'll take your run game coordinator job. Do they want to do that? Are they willing to take that kind of like demotion in terms of a job position? I'm not so sure.
That's true. But what teams need offensive coordinators right now? The Raiders, Cardinals.
Yep. But but if you have a choice, like just say in theory, like, what teams are still hiring coordinators and may need a quarterback coach or a pass game coordinator with an established quarterback there, or younger quarterback there you can work with? The Jets job is not ideal, because you're basically taking a job with an unknown. We're promising you we're going to get so-and-so, but we don't have so-and-so in the building yet. So if I'm Darrell Bevel, if I have a choice of just give me a team, I don't know who's still hiring somebody, somebody, the Raiders as opposed to us, would you rather work with Mendoza, or would you rather work with player to be named later? You know what I mean? That's kind of, I'm not sure what they would do that.
Yeah, but the difference is I think both, like, maybe somebody in the chat has it. I don't have it off the top of my head, but the Cardinals are searching for an OC. The Raiders are searching for an OC. The Giants hired Matt Nagy.
Yep.
Cliff Kingsbury's still out there.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know if he gets a job in the cycle, to be honest. Although Florida State's offensive coordinator just retired, I think it'd be interesting to see if Cliff goes back to college. But you like, in both cases, Arizona and Vegas, they hired young offensive minds. You got to imagine that they want to have power, their offense. Maybe they call, in Clint's case, I think he's definitely going to want to call plays. I don't know about LaFleur, but is Roman, is Darrell Bevel, are these guys, Frank Reich, I guess we could throw in there as well. are they actual front runners for OC jobs with
They're not even
young
OC though. No, I'm just saying in the world where say the Jets hire Frank Reich tonight or tomorrow morning. Okay, now Darrell Bevell and Greg Roman are there, and they're like, hey, you know what? Why don't you be our pass game coordinator or a run game coordinator? All right, I'll think about it. But if the Cardinals call me, I may say, no, I may want to go there instead. Like basing on being a pass game coordinator, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I'm going to stay here. But you know, I may want to go to a better team that's got more maybe stability, continuity, better quarterback. Other than that, then it's not going to be instant. Like, okay, I'll take a demotion and come back.
I not just saying this because I'm a fan. I think the Jets are honestly a better job than both Arizona and Vegas.
For a pass game coordinator?
I do. Yeah, Vegas I think is probably a close second, but who's Arizona's quarterback going to be?
Yeah, but you wouldn't want Mendoza? You wouldn't want a chance to work with Mendoza?
He has the worst offensive line with no weapons outside of Bauer.
You're still getting a chance to work with the Heisman winner, number one pick in the draft. It's got to be a lot more exciting than be like, you know what? I may get to work with Marcus Mariota and Garrett Nussmeier. Like,
yeah, but at least you have something to kind of structure around the offense, which is an offensive line and Garrett. And we'll see too what happens with Brees. I don't know if he's going to be back or not, but I feel like with the Jets, it's just kind of like, okay, if we solve quarterback, get at least one more wide receiver, I think the offense can at least function and get to like 19, 18.
You say, but I'm not being a jerk. You say solve quarterback like you say solve quarterback like it's easy. We haven't solved it in 15 years. Like,
well, I'm not saying find a franchise quarterback and you know get Mahomes this, you know, a Mahomes type of quarterback this offseason, but someone who can actually drop back and hit a pass.
Yep. No, that's
and learn the offense and fit, and there's no weird things. Oh, you know, wide receivers are open, but the quarterback's confused or whatever reason he's not pulling the trigger, or we don't have an offensive line, or he's too young, he's being thrown out there. Just get someone who can just drop back and hit an open pass. I think the offense should move. Not, again, top 10 wise, no. You know, top half of the league, probably not. But like if news comes out, okay, we sign Kirk Cousins and we sign Wan'Dale Robinson and we draft another wide receiver or something, or AD Mitchell takes a step forward. Like, are you looking at that offense saying this is bottom 3?
No.
Bottom 5? I
don't know. Our goal is to be mediocre. Like, we're not looking for, like, my standard is so low. Go from being the worst in the NFL to top 25. That's where I'm at right now. Like, just be competitive and entertaining, because we know, like, the cards are stacked against you in so many different levels. But do you see a world where they can get all 3 of these guys on the staff? Like, all right, you know what? You didn't hire me as offensive coordinator. I'll be your run. Like, it's a perfect world for Aaron Glenn, because then you have a veteran staff of 3 guys that can replace you when you get fired during the season, which is good. But then you have a bunch of guys that can rally this locker room around with a lot of veteran experience, a lot of established experience, where it's more no nonsense. This is business, and we can actually kind of maximize some potential finally, which they haven't done. You know, definitely not last year.
You know what I think is really interesting is whether it's all 3 or even 2 out of the 3. Katie, what's up, man? What's cool about Reich, if you're Roman or if you're Bevel, like if you say, okay, I can step in to the New York Jets as, say, passing game coordinator or something. And if Reich comes in and stabilizes this offense, and maybe we draft a quarterback and we have Ty Simpson learn for a year, and if you're Bevel, you're working with Simpson for a year on the bench, and you have, take your pick, whatever, Cousins, Brissett, Mack, whoever, as your starter. And then at the end of the year, Reich is just like, hey, I did my job. We grew. We stabilized. We look normal. We look functional. We're not a laughing stock. The team is better. I have left it a lot better than I initially found it. The maybe hot seat for Glenn isn't so hot anymore. Maybe we snagged 8 wins, 9 wins, 7, 8, 9 wins, something like that. We just look competent. We're in every single game. And Ty Simpson is ready to take over. And Reich says, I've done my job. I'm out. Now you have someone in Roman or Bevel that's just like, let's roll. I've been working with Ty this whole time. I've been a part of the staff. I'm ready to kind of step in to be the long-term OC for the next however many years. So I do think that's interesting about Reich. He's not coming in at 35 years old, who's going to be here for 5 seasons trying to build this thing up. It's looking like, you know, if Reich gets the job, I would probably guess 1 or 2 years max. Unless they're just flat out dominant. But I think if you're Bevel, or I should say, if you're the Jets, you can kind of push that narrative, because right now, again, is Greg Roman a finalist for the Cardinals job or the Raiders job?
Nope.
He wasn't with, but both guys reportedly have other opportunities, but it's just not for offensive coordinator. So that could be a sweet, maybe selling tactic. If you're the Jets, it's just like, hey, Reich, that might be a 1 or 2 year thing. And you are going to be in line to take over for offensive coordinator, of course, if everything goes well.
Yeah, but see, to me, it's like if it's a 1 year thing, I don't want him. I don't need a 1 year Band-Aid coach. I want a guy in theory. You can't, dude. Like what? But no, you can't, because it'd be stupid. Because
how would
I have a guy here for 1 year?
A lot better. How would it be stupid?
To give a guy to say, if Frank Reich says, "Listen, man, Aaron Glenn, you're in deep trouble. I'll give you 1 year to help right the ship and get you back on track, and I'm moving on." I'd be like, you know what? I need a guy who's gonna be at least here 2-3 years to get me going. I don't want like a 1 year Band-Aid at offensive coordinator. I don't care about the next guy stepping up. The next guy stepping up can step up now and be the 2 year guy or 3 year guy. It's got to be about some kind of continuity.
Well,
you okay, 1 year Band-Aid for an offensive coordinator. That's insane. It's got to be at least a 2-3 year commitment, dude. It has to be at least 2 years, at least.
Yeah, but that's not the position that Reich's in right now. I mean, maybe it is, but
then you should hire him then.
So you would give Greg Roman a 3 year offensive coordinator?
I don't want a 1 year Band-Aid. Like, I don't care, dude. If he says, "Listen, I'm here," that means if he's only giving you 1 year, he's already retired. He's already checked out. He's coming here to kind of fix some things up. You know, I'm not here next year anyway. You're like, no, you got to have somebody's got to have at least some kind of plan and blueprint to help you turn this team around, because the Jets aren't a 1 year turnaround, especially on offense. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna give Ty Simpson or whoever a little bit of glimpse of something. Like, I'm out of here now. Take care. Oh, give him some kind of continuity.
Well, I'm not saying that it's a guarantee. Reich is just like, Glenn, right? You got a lot on your hands. I guess I'll come out of retirement to help you. It's just like, no, like if he's going to take the job, he's going to take the job because I assume he wants it. And, for all the reasons that we talked about before. But at the end of the season, after I assume that the offense looks a little bit better, if he does in fact retire, if you're the Jets, you got to have a plan B. So I'm not just saying, oh, Reich, you might only be Reich.
No, that's a conversation you have now, though. It's a conversation you have right now tonight with Frank Reich. Okay, listen, man. I mean, he's not 85; he's 64. Listen, dude, we appreciate you coming back. And how much energy and passion you have for this job? Is this, like what is your vision for this? Is this like 3 year plan for your 5 year plan? Like, have that this conversation comes from adult organizations. I mean, the Jets may be above their head right now, but that's something you have to talk about.
So out of the three, rank them.
I like Reich the most, but it's got to be.
And who's your second and third?
Bevel. I like Bevel more. Like Roman, to me, I understand. To me, Roman kind of limits your opportunities at quarterback. I think you know exactly what his offense is going to be, the quarterback he wants, and the worry I have is that you're going to alienate very good candidates at quarterback based on your offensive coordinator. And I don't like that idea. It just kind of bothers me, especially as this kind of power where he's going to be the coach of your offense. That with Roman kind of makes me nervous, especially with Aaron Glenn, the defensive-minded guy. But that could be just me being, cynical or whatever else. But if Reich, Bevel, but if Reich says, "Listen, man, I got a year, maybe, but Bevel's got all the energy and fire. Like, listen, I'm committed to this team. I want to be here for the next 5 years." Cool. You need that. This is a rebuild, dude, that you're trusting this guy. It's not like he's working with Sean McVay. He's working with a head coach that's completely in over his head, that doesn't know anything about offense. So you're developing, the Garrett Wilsons, the Mason Taylors, the Breece Hall, Membu, all these guys. Especially you're adding another draft class. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. So I mean, if you are whoever's making the decision, I don't even know, Woody, Glenn at this, I don't know. You're saying that you would rather take Roman over Reich if Reich says, "Hey, I'll be here for a year, maybe year two, maybe 2 years." You're saying, never mind.
See Bevel. I didn't say Roman. I said Bevel.
Okay. Not okay. I'm just
saying, it's like I'm not like, I understand the Jets are in such a bad place right now that they're desperate. I'm not desperate enough to hire a coach that only has 1 year left. I'm not. It's just, to me, it's like, you know what? You need more than that. You need more of a commitment, because this team it just needs that more of a commitment. It just does.
Well, so that's the whole point on why I think it's a good selling point if you are the Jets to a Roman or a Bevel, where it's like, hey, in the event that Reich is a 1 year stopgap OC, but he improves the team and kind of builds up the foundation, and then it creates the seamless opening for you, Bevel or Roman, whoever, to step in
Yeah.
and to start moving forward. I would much rather take that than just giving Bevel or Roman the job, only taking one out of the three and just saying, okay, we're gonna roll the dice. But again, there's really only two outcomes. Either the Jets are gonna again grow, progress, start to turn it around.
Yep.
Great, cool. I'm a Jet fan. Awesome. That's what I want. But if not, then everyone's gone and we're starting over next season with a bunch of draft picks and a bunch of cap space. And with by the way, a lot of interesting head coaching names. I feel, say what you want about the Jets wanting to keep Glenn this cycle. There were 10 openings. There's a lot of names that were fired, a lot of names that were hired. Just based off of pure math, unless there's a lot of one and dones next season. I mean, there's a chance that there could only be like 4 openings next season. So Tomlin, McDermott, Brian Flores, that's 3 names right there, not to mention Mike McDaniel and whatnot. So not saying that they're all down to come to the Jets, but.
So then now say we hire Frank Reich. I just have that's where they're going with this. Is that enough to inspire free agents to come here? Now, right now, the Jets have the stench over them where they're the laughing stock. Aaron Glenn's on a hot seat, a lot of uncertainty. Frank Reich could be a stabilizing force, or at least they know the name. He's respected throughout the NFL. Does that say, okay, you know what? I want to play for the Jets now. I can buy into a Frank Reich offense. Maybe will Garrett Wilson buy into it? Like, what do you think the aftermath of this is in terms of the perception of this offense?
I think Reich I'll frame it like this. I think with Reich, you have a better chance of adding free agents compared to if it was Inkstrand. Because with Inkstrand, you're like, I don't know what this offense looks like.
What about compared to Bevel or Roman?
I'll say this, with the experienced guys, I think they maybe know who they want more and who they should stay away from. Maybe Ravens or Chargers, guys that Roman has worked with before in the past. I don't want to go down the Tua rabbit hole if Bevel gets the job. Nope. But you know what I mean, right? Like if Reich gets the job, as you were talking, I pulled up the Colts cap space, right? Because every team wants Alec Pierce. And they're saying that dude, by the way, these wide receivers are getting paid like crazy.
Yep.
Like Jacoby Myers is at $20 million a season. Alec Pierce is expected to get like $22-23 million a season to be wide receiver too. There's let's see, the Colts right now are at $35 million in cap space. And Michael Pittman is a $29 million cap hit with zero guaranteed money. If Michael Pittman is cut from Indy to save that 29 mil and the Colts just say, screw it, let's just, take the majority of that, re-sign Alec Pierce, and we're moving forward with like an extra 5 mil in space on top of what we had. And Michael Pittman's out there and Reich's like, I think, I drafted you. Yeah. You come over to the squad. Like all of a sudden, like the connections are there. Like Frank Reich has been around for a decent amount of time. And, I think, again, with Tanner, it's no shot at Tanner because I like Tanner a lot. Like he seemed upbeat, he seemed positive, and I do feel for him because I don't really feel like he had a ton of work with obviously a quarterback and with all the injuries, and the defense was atrocious. So you're not really having much production or protection, from that side because you're essentially playing down, every game. So you now are asking this quarterback-less offense to get you back into the game. So I do kind of, and also Tanner was learning on the job too. It's not like he had all the answers. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm anti-Inkstrand or that guy sucked and he's the reason.
But no, it's like we moved on. We moved on from Inkstrand. Now it's about, okay, you're hiring this veteran offensive coordinator. Can this hire inspire free agents to actually come here with a team that is labeled with a lot of turmoil and uncertainty and unhappy players for that matter? You got to figure Breece Hall isn't all that happy, whatever else. So it's like, does that change the win? Like, does hiring Frank Reich calm Garrett Wilson down? Like, you know what? This may actually work. I can buy into this. Or he's going to be like, you know what? This is a retread. I'm not really, but we're going nowhere. What do you think the reaction is going to be to this?
To Reich specifically or to all
to Reich? Yep, to Reich.
I think the experience matters, man. I do. I don't want to sound like, oh, Frank Reich's this top 5 OC. We just got McVay. the Jets are outsmarting everybody. Obviously not. But to show up and say, hey, I have over 30 plus years of experience. I've called plays. Oh, I've played.
Yep.
I've won a Super Bowl. I've been head
So you
coach.
think it makes
I've done
it more
that, done that.
attractive? So it's a more attractive team to come to with him in place.
I would argue yes.
Do you think that applies to all of them? Like I saw the one thing from Javid, he says Roman still attracts more than Engstrand as well because he's obviously not the most exciting or inspiring hire, but he's been more successful in any OC we've had in the past decade.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that because I like Roman to me has like a bad rap online, but at the end of the day, like the accolades to me at least, no one's saying Roman's perfect. No one's saying he's great, but he has the trust. Like John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, they're not going to say, hey, take Rex Ryan. They're not going to just throw the offense at Roman and say, hey, you do everything, please.
Yeah.
If they don't believe in the guy, if he sucks or if he's incapable of doing it, he has a lot of years under his belt. And again, I keep coming back to the experience thing. And I hope it doesn't sound like a broken record, but there were just too many times last season where I just felt like the Jets in game were slow to adjust, or a fourth down call sucked, or a fourth down decision, when not to use the timeout, when to maybe challenge a play or something, like just kind of those in-game. I felt like overall the Jets were decent at challenges, but just the in-game management stuff, certain like big play calls, like 3rd and 9s, and we're just handing it off and punting, like just certain situations were just weird, where I felt like 2-minute drive stuff before half, where I feel like a Greg Roman who's been in this situation 100 times and Frank Reich who's been in this situation 100 times, they're not going to look at it and be like, oh, get all frantic and weird, or if Glenn is frantic and weird, you can look at Reich and be like, dude, chill. I got this. It's easy. We've done this a million times. And I also think the experience will also help in game planning. Like if you want to, like, obviously nobody has this number, but if you want to take the amount of practices that Greg Roman or Darrell Bevell has held, whether you're an assistant or a full-time play caller, and compare that to the amount of practices that Tanner Engstrand has held, one trumps the other by a mile. And I think just having that structure, okay, this is how we do things. Yeah, I think there is value in that. And again, it's no shot at Tanner or young coaches, because young coaches kind of feels like it's the trend right now, but specifically for the Jets that just feel like they're all over the place with no veteran leadership, I feel like a veteran leader would really help this team.
No, I completely agree with you. I 1000% agree. This is all three names, while they're not the best of all, like all the best in the NFL, will help the New York Jets because they are just rudderless right now. They have no direction, no leadership, no guidance. They'll have a blueprint. They'll have an offense. They have a scheme. They have a plan for the quarterback. They know exactly what they're doing and how they want to do it, which says a lot because the Jets they didn't have that last year. You can say whatever you want about Engstrand. This is just a fact, especially with a defensive-minded head coach. So I don't mind any of these guys because I know where the Jets are right now. But now it's okay. This is part A. Part B is getting the quarterback and getting buy-in from all these other players to actually have a fun offense this year and do that. So you figure the offensive line could be a strength. With Greg Roman, you'd be like, that'd be really great because he wants to run the ball, which is good. They'll probably be more physical. Then you need the buy-in from like Mason Taylor, Garrett Wilson. That just comes down to the quarterback then, which would be really interesting. It's going to be interesting, man. Like it makes you like the calming, like I don't say calming, like having that, the presence of Frank Reich makes you feel better just on offense. Like, all right, they're going to have like a rhyme and rhythm to what's going on now. We're not going to be trying to throw darts at the board trying to figure things out. Then it's like, okay, get the quarterback and then hope Aaron Glenn holds his end of the bargain by having a competent defense. So it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at look. Tanner was not here for 5 years. Let's just look at the one season that he was here and say what happened with quarterback. Right, Fields is signed. Okay, you want to make Fields your starter? Like, okay, it is what it is. We can't pretend like all the outlets didn't have Fields ranked highly on their free agent list. In many cases, he was number 1 or number 2, depending on how each outlet felt about Aaron Rodgers at the time, right? And Darnold as well. But Fields was ranked over Daniel Jones in most every list. He was ranked over a lot of these other, free agent options. He was ranked over Mac Jones. Everyone loves Mac Jones now. So, okay, you decide to go with Justin Fields, but you can tell that the system is not being built around Justin. And it's like there's this massive rift between OC slash system and quarterback in year one. So it's like, okay, is it an offensive coordinator problem where he's incapable of calling rollouts and really playing to Justin Fields' strengths? Like when Tanner first got the job, I was thinking Mac Jones was going to be a potential solution because he has a very similar play style to Jared Goff. And you're just kind of thinking pocket pass. Like I did a ton of videos thinking, okay, the Jets are going to be targeting a pocket passer. And then what was it? It was like the first or second day of free agency, the Fields news drops. And then my assumption is, okay, they're going to go full in with Yo Holmes. What's up, man? They're going to go full in with Fields and his skill set. And you're not going to pay Fields that contract on a multi-year deal to say, well, we don't know how to utilize him in a system. And that's what it looked like. It looked like they didn't know how to play to his strengths. And again, after one season, we're having that, having that question for someone like Roman or Bevel or Reich or whoever it's going to be. Like I think if we were to sit down and ask them, hey man, like what's your offense going to look? And by the way, like you mentioned it before, all of these guys have interviewed multiple times, both virtually and in person. The quarterback position has got to come up in these discussions. The free agent plan, the draft picks, and for what it's worth as well, Roman, Bevel, all these guys need to have significant knowledge on Ty Simpson and whatnot. Not this, the season ended and we've just kind of been hanging out. Like, no, I expect all of these coaches to have at least watched a portion of tape to have somewhat of an understanding. Not, okay, it's February. Let's just say they make an announcement tomorrow, the next day, first week of February, and we're cracking on the Ty Simpson tape. Oh, who's this guy? Yeah. No, you're not getting the OC job. No, I need to have knowledge that I'm bringing into the organization, not someone that's trying to build on the fly.
100%.
Just my 2 cents.
No, that's going to be part of the presentation. Okay, you want this job. What do you bring to the table, and what's your vision for our offense going forward? Who are your answers at quarterback? And I'd be curious to see if any of these guys said, you know what, especially Roman, I can work with Justin Fields. And that's something that we can talk about later on, but I get that vibe. So the question is, the comment is hire Reich, 2 first-rounders for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, so funny enough, after the playoff implosion from both games, Stroud was just looked terrible. I did a whole video on if the Jets should trade for Stroud, right? If Houston was just so pissed and they wanted to move off, but I didn't post it just because I didn't want it to sound like too clickbaity. So it's just still saved on the on the channel as like a draft. But no, Reich by all reports and whatnot, he wanted Stroud and the offensive staff wanted Stroud. It wasn't until this sit down meeting in Nick Saban's offense where between the owner of the Panthers and Saban, okay, Bryce Young's the guy. Supposedly after that meeting, the Panthers owner was like, no, he's going to be the pick. I don't care what anybody says. He's special.
And they keep changing his coordinator like every year too, don't they? The Texans, like it's like a revolving door there.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it was Slowick that started, and he won Rookie of the Year, and then in year 2 he took a step back. And to be fair, Houston's had some pretty bad offensive lines, but supposedly there was some rift between Slowick and CJ, like they didn't get along. And now they brought in Nick Caley, and now it's his worst season yet. And by the way, he's going to be owed a lot of money soon. Because CJ Stroud is still a good quarterback. He's still a really good quarterback in my opinion. Yep. He's not a top 10 guy, but I do feel like putting myself in the shoes of myself in a month and a half, or a month and a half, when free agency opens up, breaking news: the New York Jets are acquiring CJ Stroud. That's going to be the best actual option that we've had in a long time. I
agree. Yeah, their line was awful. Then they had injuries
all
too.
3 years too. That the O line has been terrible, and they traded Council too. By the way,
so I mean, now say the Jets get this all-star staff. You get Bevel, you get Roman, you get Frank Reich. Do you think the perception of this team overall just changes, where fans calm down a little bit? Because right now it's chaos. You have on WFAN, there's all kinds of crazy stories out there, all this speculation, all this. If they get this kind of solidified, finalized tonight or tomorrow morning, does everybody calm down? Like, you know what? All right. we have adults in the room, which we all like to say. We feel a lot better about the management, the offense, and the structure, having some kind of blind faith in Aaron Glenn being the good defensive coordinator. Do we feel a little better about things and start embracing, okay, listen, we may be able to salvage some of this season and be a 6-win team?
Dude, I'm shooting for higher than 6 wins. I think we could get to 7-8 next season. That's my hope. That's what I think is going to happen. I'll say that, dude, when free agency opened, I knew it was coming. When free agency opens up and the signings start coming in,
you're buying back in.
The excitement's, I think, overall going to be like, could see this Jets team starting to get a little bit better. Year 2 of Glenn and stuff like that. But, what's interesting is like this whole process has been, man, it just feels like disorganized and it's been clumsy. But in the end, if we end up with, let's just call it Reich, right? Because Connor Hughes continues to push that he's the front runner. But if we pretend like, okay, Black Monday hits, the Jets just clean house, they fire Inkstram, and then in 3-4 days, they announce Frank Reich is the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of fans would actually be pumped with that. But because this process has been so weird and Inkstram was fired late, and you have the rumors and the reports, oh, Glenn's staff this, Glenn's staff that, there's communication issues, and they're panicking, and they're interviewing a bunch of guys virtually, and you had the whole Wink fallout, whatever happened there, who knows? It just kind of feels like they're stumbling across the finish line. But in the end, it would still be the same result. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird to think about.
No, the clumsy process makes this all a lot harder to tolerate because they come off really poorly. Like if Glenn would have said when the season was over, I'm taking over play calling, I'm hiring my guy, we're rolling. Okay, cool. I mean, Brian Duker wouldn't be like, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? But like, all right, you have conviction, you know what you want to do, you have a plan, let's do it. Offensively, like if it's just how they handle it. But now it's like, all right, now the thing is you hire these guys. How are you filling out the rest of your staff, especially if Roman and Bevel don't follow Frank Reich? Who's going to be the quarterback coach? Are they keeping Steve Hyden? Like all these different things. It gets interesting. But it's like, okay, you got to find things. Next thing is, how does the NFL perceive this team? Okay, they've made some changes, some surprising moves. What free agents want to come here? According to several people, agents are saying the Jets are not a desirable location. Nobody wants to come here. Like that's what the next step is. The buy-in from free agency. Can you add vital pieces to make you competitive? And that's mostly a quarterback. So then, that's your day one of free agency. And that to me is what's going to either get me excited or be like, you know what? Another one of these years, we know where this is going. You can't get a competent quarterback. You probably need 2, right? You want at least 2 because you kind of want to hide your rookie quarterback where he's not forced to start. That's kind of where I'll get my buy-in will come in is they can bring in some quarterback that'll be, not suck.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue, well, the point about like, oh, the Jets are an undesirable spot. You can make that argument with almost every bad team. And every year money talks, so that is an element. Now you can say, oh, the Jets have had the losing streak or the playoff drought and this and that, and Glenn's on the hot seat. That's fine. But I would argue that the Jets are in a better position to sign free agents with, I'm going to assume we sign one of these veteran OCs and we don't have a Martindale sort of moment. Nope. Than if we would have kept everybody on staff. If we were going into year 2 with Charles London and year 2 with Steve Wilkes, year 2, dude, I would much rather take my, roll the dice on new candidates or even Glenn just saying, hey, I'm calling the defense because he can now pick up the phone and talk to all these former Lion players that are supposed to hit the market, right? Robertson at corner, DJ Reader, Anzalone, and these guys, along with maybe, just guys that he feels like would honestly fit his system, because at the end of the day, it's going to be his system. It's not going to be this 50-50 between him and Wink or him and Leonard or him and Durante Jones or whatever. It's just going to be, or him and Wilkes, right? This is my defense. I know exactly what I want. I know exactly what I need. And to Glenn's credit, I know his stock is at an all-time low, but to his credit, you saw a lot of really good Lions players just starting to pop up out of nowhere under Glenn there, like Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Hutchinson. I don't want to give Glenn too much credit for that because he was, going to be great at, pretty much anywhere. But Anzalone had a career year. Lee McNeil at D tackle. Like you had all these kind of random guys not only just say, okay, you're a starter, but you're an above average starter. There was always problems with corner. But yeah, I
But
mean,
see, that comment pisses me off though, because you saw players in Detroit getting better, and Glenn oversaw a defense last year that actually got worse, and your best players getting worse. And
that's true.
He sat back and watched it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the whole judgment thing. But if I wanna try to push back a little bit,
Go for it.
just for the sake of argument, for the sake of devil's advocate, when Glenn did take over Detroit initially, he inherited a bunch of Matt Patricia players and they weren't good and they didn't fit his system. And he was forced to, like, that team was so built into the Matt Patricia defense that he was just like, I can't even run the system that I want. Almost like when Greg Williams took over the Jets, he's like, I can't run my system because it's so built and so ingrained for the old regime that I just have to kind of make do with these players, and it's going to take 2 off seasons to really like get these guys in the mix. So just for devil's advocate purposes, I figured I'd bring it up.
Like I'm just doom and gloom on everything right now. So I just hate everything and I hate this team. Now today there's a lot of see right now the Jets are like the punching boy for everybody. They're punching bag for everybody. Everybody's taking, there's stories coming out of nowhere, and Darren Muji doesn't want to be here anymore and all this stuff out there. And to me, like, we got to ask a couple times about it. I don't believe any of it because I cannot see a world where Darren Muji is openly walking around saying, you know what, I can't stand working for the Jets. I can't wait to get out of here. But, I just can't see any of this happening. So some of these reports out there right now, I just think are ridiculous. I know Craig Carton came back and debunked most of it, saying, listen, I know all the sources. Darren Muji wasn't even at the Senior Bowl, like all these different things. But some of these stories now, I just think are just people just throwing things out there, man. I don't like. I think the Jets are dysfunctional, but the stories that came out today, I don't pretty much believe any of them.
Yeah, I don't really follow a lot of the Northeast, a lot of the New York media to begin. I like Samini and Hughes and whatnot, like the beat reporters I do, but none of the talk shows and stuff, just because I'm not there. Like I don't have like access to it. I didn't grow up on sports radio at all, so I don't really listen to it. But here's the thing about the Jets. We know that they're an easy target and they're a punching bag.
Yep.
And so in essence, you could say anything about them, and someone would say, not that hard to believe. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it's just where the Jets are at. Whether the thing is true or fake, like, basically, if I shot that story over to my brother, he'd be like, okay, like I could see that, even if it was completely fake, And then the second thing is, the Jets are not a leaky ship anymore. Saleh, JD, leaks all over the place.
Yep.
Like no one had a clue about the whole defensive coordinator thing. Nobody's, we're searching for an offensive coordinator in February. Tanner Engstrand's job security was not mentioned. None of these Frank Reich was mentioned, but nobody had anything on Darrell Bevell. Nobody said a word on Greg Roman or Curry or Lunda Wells. It was just complete silence. So, to have an organization that's not leaking freaking anything, to have that organization's general manager say how much he doesn't want to work for the team, openly saying that, not only is it just, a little kind of tough to grasp, but also whoever's leaking that makes Muji look bad. Because if you're another team, it's just like, okay, yeah, I understand, or whatever. The Jets are in a weird spot and they're traditionally not like a well-ran organization, but you don't go around after becoming, I'm going to assume, a millionaire here. Yep. We got a basketball trade. Clippers are trading James Harden to Atlanta. The Cavaliers.
Oh,
Darius Garland going to the Clippers. Sorry, figured I saw breaking news pop up on my phone. But if you're Muji and I'm going to assume a millionaire now in year one as general manager, and you're going to be openly like blasting the owner to like external people and external sources and media members and stuff, like, to me, it's like, okay, even if Muji's right and the Jets are a dysfunctional organization, I don't really want someone like blabbering like it's high school drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. I think when they empowered this staff to trade Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams, that kind of shows you the faith that Woody Johnson has in them. Like, listen, no matter what, you made trades all season long. You got Briggs, you know, like you got all these players, Harrison Phillips. They made a lot of moves where how does Moji not like that? You know what I mean? Like you had the flexibility to do all this. You have a ton of cap space, a ton of draft picks, and I just can't see it happen. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And especially a good way to ruin your career in the NFL is to be out and about, bad-mouthing your team while you're still hired by the team. You're still employed by the team. So I just don't see any of it. And like you said, I think right now the Jets are an easy punching bag where it's like, you know what? Rip Woody Johnson, talk about dysfunction, talk about chaos, and everybody's going to believe it, which is fair. They deserve it, and they've earned that. But in this scenario, I just don't see it, dude. Like Glenn and Muji could probably be arguing about, you know, who they want to hire, who they don't want to hire, because they're desperate to get this team improved as fast as possible. And that's fine. I'd rather see them both be combative and try to get the best solution than both be yes men. Okay, yes, and go with the flow. You know, debating or whatever else is fine. You got to figure it out. But the stuff that came out today, I was like, man, it's just, you know, it could be clickbait, could be all whatever else. It's just kind of capitalizing on the Jets' poor handling of this coordinator search.
Yeah, and two other quick points. Number one, if you blast the Jets in the media, there's a saying, Jets for clicks.
100%.
Cowherd, all these different shows. If you rip Stephen A. Smith, all these, if you rip apart the Jets on national television or on a national platform, you're going to have a lot of engagement, clicks and views, and all this stuff, because it's like a poll, a hot take and stuff like that. So that's one. And number two, the Giants hired Matt Nagy today, and that's not going over well with Giants fans on social media. So again, I'm not up there. I don't really dive into the whole like Jets versus Giants media war, like who is favored public, who is liked more in the media, or whatever, like the whole optics of it. I'm so far removed from it. But could that be a divert, switch from the Giants hired Matt Nagy, and John Harbaugh is traditionally a pretty loyal head coach and believes in process and whatnot. And he's not going to can someone after one season. So it's looking like Nagy's could potentially be there for 3-4 seasons. And you have, from what I've seen, the majority of Giants fans freaking out about it, saying like, whoa, I love Harbaugh, but Matt Nagy's the one. And supposedly they didn't offer Cliff Kingsbury the OC job, even though he interviewed for the job, meaning he didn't get it, and they chose Nagy over Cliff. Could that be maybe a diversion? Hey, don't mind the Nagy stuff. Look at the Jets. They're dysfunctional.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's like now it's just like it's silly season where you're just take advantage of the Jets while you can, because they're down and out and they don't have many answers until we can provide some answers. Like, all right, we hired our coaching staff. We hired this. We get the free agency. I think that's when this comes down. But the reactions today were wild, dude. I was like, man, this is just – I just want this over with. Just hire the guy, get it done. Hopefully it's done by tomorrow and we could all move on. I'm really curious to see the press conferences, dude, because the way this all went down, Aaron Glenn has to be on point, because he could really talk himself in circles on this one, because the process was flawed. The process didn't make any sense for the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator, especially coming off a poor season where you should have been better prepared. So I'm really curious to see how Glenn handles this, man, because this media is going to be after him, rightfully so, dude. You talk this big game. It's not, your preparation looks like it's off. He's got it's going to be fascinating, dude.
Yeah, and I'm looking at when the NFL Combine starts, because I think that's going to be the first known presser that Glenn and Muji are going to have if they go. But it's February 23rd through March 2nd. So,
well, they got to introduce Frank Reich. You think they got to introduce their coordinators, don't they? They do a press conference for that.
I mean, maybe together. I mean, we didn't hear anything with Duker.
Well, he was.
I mean, like, Zoom. You don't think that'd be weird if they're like how
he only does Zoom interviews.
Let me ask you this before we end: is there? I know Glenn wants to call the defense, but is there a and like when news first came out that the Jets hired Brian Duker, it was like, okay, your 8 candidates fell through for whatever reason, money, play calls, whatever, and then they virtually interview. Duker, and then the next day he gets the job without doing a second in-person interview. Like, how much was really covered in this virtual sit down? Is there a world where he's actually like Bill Belichick and he's just dominated the interview? Ben Johnson style with Bears and just freaking Glenn's just like, yo, we got to get this guy.
You know what world that is? Your world.
Fake
That's
one.
your
Yeah,
world. That's
fantasy
your
world. Fantasy world.
That's JetsCentral world. That's where that's at. No, it's weird, dude. It's so strange. And then we got next comment. This isn't new though. Joe Douglas said, "I work at the behest of ownership. We've gone through regimes, and Woody has had this said about him before." It's true, but I mean, to be fair, this team went through a dreadful season last year. That there are a lot of questions this staff had to answer. And if Woody, as an owner, says, "Listen, man, you got to show more competence than this. It doesn't make any sense to me." It's his right to do that. You know what I mean? I don't blame him.
I always look at it like if I was the owner, you know, man, if I owned a football team, like I would want to be in the draft room. I would want to
fire everybody.
You know, hey, like, you know, what are you guys thinking type of thing. Now, of course, Woody's a freaking billionaire, has a million things going on, and like the Jets are not probably the top priority, just a guess, but it does I don't want to say to Woody's credit, but it feels like he gets involved and starts like you start seeing Woody's name pop up when the Jets are horrible. Yep. Like when they are coming off a 3-win season, or like you didn't hear anything with Woody Johnson when JD first got the job when he was overseas. Yep. It wasn't until 5 or 6 years into the Douglas regime where Woody's you start seeing his name pop up, and the Jets were not even making you know, playoffs is one thing, but they weren't even a 500 team in the 6 years that JD was there. And then he leaves and the team is still like in a disaster. It's also roster holes.
He also gets mentioned when you're bringing a Wink Martindale for an in-person interview where it's a foregone conclusion he's getting the job, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to hire you. Aaron Glenn's calling plays. Where like things are just handled so stupidly. The obvious natural reaction is like, well, something must have happened. Woody Johnson probably said, "I'm not paying him $5 million a year. You got to do this yourself." Or he gave him a budget saying, you know, because every staff has a budget. You're allocated this much money for your staff. Okay, I got to pay all these guys you just fired. Wonderful. Now you only pay $5 million, you know, Frank Reich, whatever, $4 million. This guy, like, no, I'm not giving you this allocation. Where Aaron Glenn may be like, well, if you're not going to pay these guys because Leonard's not going to come cheap. None of these guys are coming cheap, especially for this team. Then you know what? I got to call the plays. That conversation should have happened in friggin' January or late December, not now. But when that kind of stuff happens, that kind of incompetent process, that's when Woody Johnson immediately gets entered to it. And it's fair to kind of wonder what happened there, because it's it seems very weird.
Dude, these assistant coaches get paid a ton. Brian Flores got $6 million for the Vikings, or from Minnesota.
Yep.
And so, yeah, like that's kind of what makes me think that something's going to happen with one of these, you know, OCs here, is because, you know, chances are Brian Duker's not asking for $5 million a season, you know, as defensive coordinator, if you're not going to be calling plays.
Pretty safe.
Because if Wink says, I want $5 million, and Reich says, I want $5 million or $4 million or whatever, you know, now you're going if you're Woody Johnson, Glenn is probably at like 10 or something. That's like 20 million for 3 guys, not including the rest of the staff that Woody has to pay for, and paying for all these guys that were fired, because a lot of the times coaching contracts are like 2 to 3 year deals.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that, because I think it was Connor Hughes, or it could have been Zach Rosenblatt that brought it up, that Brian or the whole like Woody not wanting to pay Wink because he's a defensive guy or something, and Glenn's a defensive guy, and so they opted for Duker because he's not going to call plays, and he's worked with Glenn before, not calling Duker a yes man, but he's just like, okay, you're just gonna, you know, you're just gonna be an echo, you know, an extension of myself. You're gonna be like my right arm in game planning and play calling and stuff like that.
My right pinky.
Dude, imagine this defense gets turned around and Brian Duker is taking like head coaching interviews.
I wish for it. I hope for it. Let him be a complete genius,
bro. Mike LaFleur didn't call plays for the Rams, and he just got the head coaching job. By the way, you know who's linked for the Cardinals DC job? Take a guess. DC.
Oh, DC.
Take a guess. Martindale.
No, are you serious?
Yeah, I saw that today.
Oh my goodness. Duker is going to clean up the dookie. This is.
I hope.
So, well, we'll see what happens, man. It's just there's so much going on right now. I just want it all just done. I want to be over with it. and we start talking about free agency plan, kind of matching up what the offense is going to be, what players are available, are there any trades going to happen? I'm just curious to see how these press conferences go out. You know, how Glenn can answer it, how Muji answers it, Woody Johnson, who can never talk his way out of a paper bag, how he handles it, and then the players too. We figure, well, you know, does this impact Breece Hall at all? Where does Breece Hall, who kind of has to be unhappy at this point, being a Jet, does Frank Reich being hired and like this staff, especially Greg Roman, does that inspire him to say, okay, listen, if they tag me, I'll be happy here? Like, can you sway his stance? Not saying that we know that he doesn't want to be here, but does that give them any kind of confidence they want to stick around for one more year to see if they can get any productivity?
Yeah, that would be my selling point if I'm the Jets. Like, hey, you know what? Reich is going to be the guy. We're going to pay him whatever he wants. Boom, get him in the building, and he's going to stabilize. He's going to have a say in free agency. He's going to have a say in the draft. You want to talk about head coach of the offense? Okay, I want decision making and play calling, and it's going to be his offense. And if we draft a young quarterback, that would be my preference at this point. If we get Reich, if we don't get Reich, I don't know. But if we do get him and we go with that veteran Cousins, Mac Jones, Brissett type of option, you bring that guy into the mix. You draft whoever you want in the draft. Probably not going to be Mendoza. Again, who knows what's going to happen with Chambliss. Yeah. But you bring that rookie in. You sit him for a season. You have Reich develop him. Well, at the same time, Reich has added a Roman or a Bevel to the staff. He's a part of it. He's also working hand in hand with getting the offense back on track. But again, it's Reich's show. But he's also there watching the development of, let's just say, Ty Simpson, right? And then if Reich wants to come back, sweet. If he wants to leave, okay, it kind of sucks. But now we have someone who knows the roster, who's been on the staff, and we kind of have talked about this before, dating back a year. Okay, you know what, Reich could only be a 1-year thing. So Roman or Bevel, you can now step in, and it's going to be a seamless process because, again, you know the team, you know it works. You're not stepping in and saying, slamming down a brand new playbook and saying, all right, guys, I got to learn everyone.
But does that convince Breece Hall? Does this process convince Breece Hall to stay here this year? Do you think, like,
if Breece Hall wants to leave, Breece Hall can leave? There's way too many good running backs in free agency to where I'm diving into a massive contract for, like, I would offer Breece Hall what he deserves. 11 mil per season, 3 years, 33. If he wants to go to the Chiefs on a lesser deal, fine by me. Kenneth Walker's out there. Javonte Williams will be out there. Rico Dowdle will be out there. Travis Etienne will be out there.
This is the conversation that should happen at the trade deadline then.
Agreed.
Because Muji's still here. So if you now it's like, so you have to figure they had to have some kind of conversation with Breece Hall at the trade deadline. Do you want to stay or do you not? Here's the kind of numbers we can offer you, whatever else. So now the thing is, now you go from Engstrand to Frank Reich with a Breece Hall got 1,000 yards, but a terrible season again. Jets aren't winning. Offense blows. Have no idea what the quarterback is. Does this kind of make him say, okay, listen, you know what? If you want to tag me, I won't be disgruntled. If you want to give me a deal, I'm more open to it now as opposed to the previous offense. Do you think it helps or hurts or doesn't really do anything with it?
I don't really think it does anything. I mean, I guess maybe, but if gosh, the franchise tag is risky because it's a lot of money, and
I wouldn't do that.
If you're going to franchise them, you might as well just kind of give him an extension. The way I look at the franchise tag is because the number is determined. Like if you look at like the franchise tag for any position, it's very similar to what that player. It would be like an expensive 1-year deal to what that player's market value would be. And if we're talking about running back, I think I would rather just sign him to a 2 or a 3-year deal at a cheaper number than the 1-year franchise tag because, there's only so much. I know the Jets have a lot of it, but there's only so much cap space to go around. I don't want to consume a decent sized percentage of the cap going to Breece Hall for one season, and therefore we can't spend that money on other players because you know what I mean? Like,
I understand what you're saying, but right now, if you're Breece Hall, you're like, you know what? Say the Jets offer him, in theory, 3 years, $30 million, right? He'd be like, okay, thank you for your offer. I'm going to test free agency. He's gone, dude. He's gone. He's not coming back. But then that's why you should have traded with the trade deadline because then you've literally wasted an opportunity to have another draft asset this year for a player that's not going to be here this year. So to me, the Jets, they are kind of showing their hand because the closer we get to free agency, if the deal's not done, they've blown it. because I don't like tagging. I think tagging is a terrible idea. I think he's a good player, not a great player. I think he gets disgruntled and he's not part of the answer. So it's like, okay, if you want to test the market, goodbye. He's going to be gone.
Yeah, and Armand makes a great point as well. You know, not only is it just kind of like a, an overall stupid move, but Oscar, yeah, he'd be unhappy. So if Brees is already disgruntled, if he's already tired of losing, getting the franchise tag, being forced to come back, granted, it'd be at like a massive pay bump, but I want players that want to be here. If Brees wants to go out and look, let's be real. If he gets a 3-year, $33 million offer from the Jets and a 3-year, $29 million from the Chiefs, where's he going?
Chiefs.
And look, if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. Fine. I think I would be better off moving on and saving the money or spending. Yep. I mean, like, look at what Javonte Williams put up this season, like 1,200. Yep. Like, because everyone's talking about like the Brees Hall finally, his season, he finally got over the hump with 1,000 yards. I mean, with that extra game on the NFL season, I don't want to downplay that, but you can bring it back and be able to get 1,000 rushing yards. Like that, it's not impossible to do. Like, again, look at like what Rico Dowdle did. Like, you could find different stories and whatnot across. Now, some teams have franchise running backs like James Cook in Buffalo and stuff like that, but if we swap Brees Hall out and we bring in Kenneth Walker, who I think runs a lot harder than Brees, like I'm talking like from a violence,
I like him a lot
and
more.
Like cutting and getting low and everything.
More explosive.
Yeah, more explosive, can catch the ball as well. Are we really taking this massive step backwards as an offense? I would argue we're getting a little bit better.
Yep. No, I'm with you. That's why it's like I'm trying to think of all different aspects of the team right now as you're going to free agency. Brees Hall is a story. I mean, I just think he's going to test free agency. I think he's not going to stay. So, next, thank you again, Samir. You don't have to. You can put comments in the chat. You don't have to do super chats, but we appreciate it. Woody speaking on Fields, saying it was really between Lawrence and Fields, but they drafted Wilson at 2. It's exhausting, this bullshit. So many coaches and GMs, and they are all bad. Come on, it's weird, man. It's a very strange time. Woody Johnson talks. When Woody Johnson talks, we all listen and we all get dumber. That's the one problem. And it's it's so interesting to see when these general managers or coaches are here and they're very bad at their job. When they leave and a year later, all of a sudden they're really good at their job. Like Joe Douglas is actually really good. Robert Saleh was actually a really good head coach. No, they weren't. Like they can get better over time, but let's not ignore the fact that they got ample chance. You talked about this so many times, dude. They had years to turn this around and they failed epically with the resources they had. They had bad luck with the Jets. No, they were bad at their job. There's a very clear distinction here what they were. They had the benefit of doubt and they blew it. And that's what it is. So it's crazy,
I mean,
man.
like if Tanner goes on and becomes a great OC one day, you can say like, got a crappy luck with the Jets, one and done there, dysfunctional Jets, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. But if you want to say, oh, JD didn't have enough time. The team wasn't 500. He spent how much in free agency? Had how many swings at the quarterback position? How many draft misses? Or Saleh. I was watching the Saleh presser, and I like Saleh. He seems like a really nice dude. And I think he's a great defensive coordinator. Yep. And I think he's an average head coach. But when the question came up about Cam Ward's development, he's like, Brian Daboll's the guy. To do that. It's just like, as a Titans fan, like, cool, I'm pumped that Daboll's here, but if he does well and Cam Ward does well, sweet, but Daboll can leave, and now what happens then? Like, again, some of these coaches have pretty blatant deficiencies, and it just kind of is what it is. So, yeah, I was surprised that Saleh got the Titans job, man. I felt like 100% they were going offense to especially with Borgonzi.
Yep.
Coming from the Chiefs, all those years with Reed and development of Patrick Mahomes, it's like I figured that they would have wanted like a QB guru, Ben Johnson type.
Yeah, I'll never forget the Beckton over Worst blew my mind. I just
see. That class I was okay with Becton, but Lamb was the one that I really wanted.
Oh, they're even better.
Yeah, because I was thinking Sam Darnold needs like a number one. Like, well, to be fair, I also wanted Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, it was Lamb, Judy, Andrew Thomas, and then I remember that draft, like he went at 4, and that was kind of like shocking at the time.
Yeah.
Then you had Wirfs, and then Jedrick Wills was also, he went like 1 pick ahead. I think Jedrick Wills is a free agent still, but yeah.
We covered a lot in an hour and a half, man.
We did, man. We did.
So this time tomorrow, I'm sure we're going to have a new offensive coordinator, and we could all exhale and be maybe just calm down for a week or two until the free agent rumor starts. But I mean, so if you had your choice and your bet, you think this time tomorrow, will the Jets have just Frank Reich and Roman, or all three of them?
What about just Bevel or just Roman?
You tell me. What's your 8:30 tomorrow night? What's gonna be the Jets staff? How's it gonna work out?
At this point, dude, I have who knows how to predict what this Jets
You
team.
have to predict it.
I'm gonna say it's Frank Reich.
Just him.
I'll say Frank Reich and Roman. I just feel like there's been too much, with the Connor Hughes stuff, with the Boomer Esiason and stuff, with the multiple interviews, with Reich talking to the Jets while he was supposedly on vacation, with Glenn saying he needs a head coach of the offense, and you have a former head coach who's called plays, won a Super Bowl, again, former player, former quarterback, someone who's played for the Jets before. I just feel like it makes too much sense. And also, I think the Brian Duker thing is kind of revealing a little bit. Like, if you really believe that the whole story about Woody Johnson wanting to delegate a specific amount of money to their assistants, and like Glenn cannot be. I find it very, very, very difficult to believe that Aaron Glenn, a defensive-minded alpha head coach, sat down, talked to Wink for weeks in December. Then they had the virtual interview. Then he comes and sits down at the facility, and Wink is telling all his guys, and then play calling gets brought up. There's no play calling needs to be talked about within the first 15 minutes, dude, in my personal opinion. Because it's like you're just getting the lay of the land. Like, hey, how do you, how do you want to run your defense? What do you want from our defense? Going over your background, how you envision certain players. You would think that calling plays is literally within the top 3 priorities of the conversation, not only just from Glenn, but from Wink's side as well. Like, he would ask before he tells all these freaking people to pack their bags, like, we're going to the Jets. You would think that would come up in conversation. So just that angle alone makes you kind of believe. And then also, hiring Duker, it's not like we went from Wink to Leonard or Wink to Durante Jones. No, it was Wink to someone who interviewed the day before virtually, and then, here's the job type of thing. So if you do want to take that angle, it's like, okay, well, if Duker's not getting freaking 3, 4, 5 million, 6 million like Flores per season, you got all this extra, cap or cash that's
your budget,
delegated to the assistants. Well, now we could really go all in with however much these guys are asking for. So, and also, I don't see Reich coming out of, at what is he, 64, 65,
64,
for like 950,000 a year, like $1 million per season. Like, that's to take on this job. I think you're going to need to hand out some cash.
All right. So is Kyler Murray still an option if Frank Reich is here?
I'm going to say not. I don't think so. But either. It depends on who's making the calls. If Spielman and Muji,
dude, that would defeat the whole purpose.
I know. But would you put it past them? If Spielman, Muji, and Glenn say,
no,
Tyler, Frank, you make it work.
That's the conversation you have during the interview process. When you interview Frank Reich, you say, listen, Kyler Murray's a guy we're highly targeting. We're going to be a very aggressive in free agency. Can you make him work in your offense or not? And Frank Reich like, well, I can, but it's not my first option. I'm more of like, I did want a different prototype. That's a conversation already. That would be my biggest nightmare. If they give him a quarterback he doesn't want. That defeats the whole purpose of this whole process.
I don't think Reich necessarily wants like a statue or like an immobile quarterback. I think he wants someone who's good at processing. Smart. And normally like these freak athletes, the Kylers, the Lamars, these guys that could just move the chains with ease. don't have to process, because if their second read is not there, they can run for 15 yards and it's good. But if you're immobile, if you're Phillip Rivers at however old he was, or Matt Ryan at the end of his career, or Jacoby Brissett, like you can't
Yeah, but
not be able to move and not be able to process.
would
So
it
you
make
kind of have
sense?
to be one or the other.
Would it make sense to have Kyler Murray as your bridge and then build the offense around him and then draft Ty Simpson?
I don't think so, because Kyler is too. He's going to be. Kyler's not going to sign a cheap deal, in my opinion. I don't think.
But I'm saying
Because
just the fundamental of your offense, a completely just whole different style then. An offense for Kyler Murray and an offense for Ty Simpson, aren't they?
Yeah, because Ty Simpson is great off of the play action, like
Exactly. So
the drop back play action game, stepping up in the pocket. I like Simpson a lot, throwing darts over the middle of the field,
So-
hanging in just being able to, even though Simpson's not the biggest guy in the world, he can still win from the pocket consistently. Kyler can win from the pocket, but he's not doing 8-step dropbacks from under center over and over and over and over and over and over again. And also, you kind of run into a problem where, okay, you want to draft Ty, or or take your pick on anybody high. Okay, if Kyler Murray does great and balls out, it's like, ideally we don't want to move off of him.
Yeah, but
You
that's
continue to roll. But if he doesn't do well, like you move on after spending all this money, and now you put in Ty, and it's like, okay, well, where, first of all, is Murray even helping develop the young? I don't know. I feel like Murray, you're either all in or you're all out.
there's got to be some kind of synchronicity between the bridge quarterback and the rookie quarterback, and the offense has also got to match their skill sets too. To have an offense for Kyler Murray that Ty Simpson can't run, is not comfortable in, kind of ass backwards too. Where it's like it's got to be all, you got to have like that same, you know what I mean, that same mindset, that same scheme, the same flow, so you can literally have a blueprint for your offense for this year and the years to come.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So, that type of quarterback, that like the Kirk Cousins, the Jacoby Brissetts of the world, those veterans that kind of know where they're at in their career, I think would be, because one thing that's really cool too about Cousins, not only does he have the connection to Reich and Spielman, but you listen to Michael Penix talk about Kirk Cousins, and he's raved about Cousins, like, man, he really helps me out in meetings and in practice, and he's right there by my side, and he's not withholding advice, and he's not trying to sabotage me, because there are quarterbacks that we've heard that do try to throw the young guy under the bus to like prolong their career. That are like mad about the team drafting a young quarterback. And it's funny because I thought Kirk was going to do that when they drafted Penix. But when they asked Penix about it, I think they've asked him multiple times. He's like, no, like Kirk, he's like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Kirk. Like, he's been actually really helpful and really cool behind the scenes.
Yep. A lot of questions to be answered by this team over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be really interesting, especially this coaching staff. So thank you for your patience with me, man. I was real negative last week. I wasn't too bad this week. I'm calming down now. Now I'm like, I've become numb. I'm embracing this chaos. I'm almost getting positive again.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm hoping that we just get an OC. Boom, we lock that in and we just move forward.
So thank you guys for joining us. This is a long one, hour and a half. Jesus. So thank you guys for joining us. Next week, I'll be professional and kind and nice. We're on Ian's channel next week. So that's the more friendly version of the show. This is the angry version. His channel is the friendly version. And I'll be back. It's just, I'm beaten down right now, dude. It's this whole process has worn me out. The season, the coach, the coordinators, the owner. I'm defeated.
Okay, here's my bet for you, okay? I bet that this assumes that the OC is going to meet with the media.
Okay.
If we get Frank Reich and you're not feeling more energized after the press conference, man, I don't know what the bet should be, but that's my take. I think you're gonna be a lot more positive after you hear. Well, I guess we have to assume that Frank gets the job, because I don't really know how inspiring Bevel is. Roman, I think can provide some light here, provide some energy, but Bevel, I'm not 100% sure. But with Reich, I mean, man, I love listening to Reich talk. Yeah, K1 jersey.
Well, and your Super Bowl prediction?
Hawks, man, Hawks.
Big. I think I'll blow
better
them out.
team, better roster. I love Drake May as a quarterback prospect, but great season. But to be honest, like the opponents that they played, the implosion by the other teams, I think there's a real question too, by the way, about Justin Herbert in big games. Hasn't won there's some major questions in my personal opinion. With Herbert just completely collapsing. I mean, you had the CJ Stroud implosion. Of course, no Bo Nix and Stidham throwing that pick at the end of the game. God, Seattle's not. I don't think Seattle's going to be making those mistakes, and I think their defense can win them the game.
No, I agree. I think it could be a blowout. I think they're going to beat them up. They're just a better team, both sides of the ball. I'm hoping to, because I hate the Patriots. So, thank you guys for joining us. An hour and 35 minutes on what we talked about. I'm sure we'll get I'll get negative feedback tomorrow. So next week, his channel, 7 o'clock. Hopefully, we have a whole new staff we can embrace, discuss, talk about happy things. So, like he said, where is this at? As MD says, peace out, people. We'll talk to you guys next week.
J-E-T-S,